So we've looked to see how versioning actually works underneath the covers and how we would implement it ourselves, which is a pretty viable option. But some people would like to just lean on others to do versioning when they don't want to spend a lot of time really digging deep into the details. And that's where the SDammann project can help you. Let's take a look at it. I'm not going to go into a deep example with it, but I do want to introduce you to it and show you where it is. So on GitHub, SDammann Web API versioning, there's a project out there that was generated to really allow an easy way for people to plug in versioning into their applications. The idea behind the library is really to either derive your own or to use one of the built-in controller selectors that they are supplying. These selectors handle some default implementations. So for the URI solution, he's actually advocating the V version here. That is going to be passed into a route version controller selector, and you would use that out of the box, and it would do what you really want to do. There's also one for version header, one for accept header, and in most of these cases, you're going to have to supply exactly the types that you're looking for. He has some good walkthroughs of how this works, and there is also a NuGet package that will allow you to go ahead and add it to your project. The benefit here is that you can kind of drop in the solution and just go. The negative for me is that using this library is implying some standard set of versioning semantics, and to get over the way he wants you to do things, the reason I might not use this in some cases is that he's applying some patterns for doing the versioning, and if your application fits into that well, that's great. Let me give you an example of that. If it doesn't fit into it, you end up doing a lot of the work that we've already shown you how to do, and you can see it's not that much work. So if we look at his library is assuming that each of the versions of your controllers are going to be in named namespaces. So you're going to have duplicate controllers with the same name. Now, on the face of it, that's kind of elegant, right? You're using namespaces to imply version, and that's all good. But for me, working in Visual Studio every day like I do, having two classes up here, both with the same name, knowing which one I'm working in can end up being a bit of a headache. And there are solutions to that. But I find having the separate names actually works better for me. There is no good way without really digging into and writing your own selectors with his library for doing that. He is assuming that the versioning is really going to be resolved using a namespace. And if you're comfortable with that, his library is great. I would expect at some point in the future some of this to be built into the Web API codebase as well, though right now it's not planned for Web API 2, so I wouldn't depend on it. You're either going to be writing your own controller selectors or using a third-party library like this one. Let's wrap up this module.